We all think we know what a vampire is. A pale figure in a dark cloak, fangs glinting in the candlelight, a creature that drinks blood under the cover of night. But what if I told you that the vampire you know today, Count Dracula, Hollywood's monster, is just a shadow? That before him countless cultures already feared blood drinkers, and that these creatures weren't always elegant counts, but sometimes demons, corpses, or wandering spirits of the dead. Tonight we peel back the curtain and step into a much older world, a world of terrifying myths that existed long before Dracula. Welcome to Dark Folklore. Here we uncover ancient myths and forgotten legends from every corner of the world. And today we explore the darkest myth of all, the vampire. If you enjoy these journeys into the shadows, remember to like the video and subscribe. It's a simple click that helps us bring these forgotten stories back to life. To understand the vampire, we need to begin with blood. Blood is the red river that flows through us, carrying life in every drop. For ancient people, blood was more than biology. It was power. It was the soul itself. In Egypt, blood was poured in rituals to honor the gods of death. In Mesopotamia, sacrifices of blood sealed oaths and curses. In Greece, warriors poured blood onto graves to honor the dead. To spill blood was to weaken life, and to drink it was to steal life. This belief that blood equals life gave birth to one of humanity's oldest nightmares, the vampire. Not one story, not one culture, but many. The vampire is less a single monster and more a mirror of our oldest fear, that something out there wants to drain us body and soul. The most famous vampires come from Eastern Europe, but the early tales are far stranger and far more frightening than Bram Stoker's Dracula. In Romania, people feared the Strigoi, restless dead who rose from their graves to torment the living. They weren't elegant counts, they were corpses, sometimes family members who came home to steal food or blood. Villagers often drove stakes through corpses to keep them down. And they didn't stop there. They cut off heads, they burned bodies, they scattered ashes to the wind. Another name whispered in fear was Nosferatu. Long before the silent film gave us the shadowy monster with rat-like teeth, peasants already knew the word. It meant plague bringer, a corpse that walked among the living. And these weren't only tales, they were cases recorded in history. One of the most chilling happened in 1725 in Serbia. A man named Peter Blagojevich died suddenly, but within days, villagers swore they saw him walking the streets at night. Soon after, 9 people were found dead. Their bodies were pale, their mouths stained with blood. When the villagers opened Peter's grave, they found something terrifying. His body was fresh, his nails and beard had grown, and his mouth was full of blood. Convinced, they drove a stake through his heart and set him on fire. This wasn't folklore. It was written down in official Austrian reports. The first documented vampire case. Fear of the Strigoi spread like wildfire, and Eastern Europe soon became the cradle of vampire panic. A region haunted not only by war and disease, but by the fear that the dead could rise to drink the living. But the vampire wasn't born in Europe. Travel east, and the myths take new shapes. In China, there is the Jiangshi, the hopping vampire, a stiff corpse, dressed in ancient robes, moving awkwardly through villages. It drained not just blood, but life force. Priests nailed talismans to doors to keep it away. And even today, films and ghost stories in China still feature the hopping corpse. In India, there was the Vetala, spirits that possessed corpses. They hung upside down from trees, waiting to pounce on travelers. Some say they drank blood, others say they feasted on flesh. All agreed they were omens of death. And in the Philippines, people still whisper about the Aswang, a creature that appears human by day, but by night sprouts wings and hunts its favorite prey, pregnant women and children. During World War II, American soldiers reported hearing locals warn them, "Beware the Aswang." Different names, different shapes, but the same hunger, and the stories don't stop there. Across Southeast Asia, there is the Penanggalan of Malaysia, a woman whose head detaches from her body, trailing entrails behind her, flying through the night to feed on infants. In Indonesia, there is the Leak, another flying head spirit, feared for centuries. In Japan, the Nukakubi, whose head also leaves the body to seek blood. Asia's vampires are not suave aristocrats in castles. They are monsters of the night, primal, savage, horrifying. But what about the Middle East? Here, stories of vampires are tied to spirits and jinn. In ancient Arabia, people feared the ghoul, a desert dweller that lured travelers away, then fed on their flesh and blood. Unlike the pale European vampire, the ghoul was a shapeshifter, sometimes a beast, sometimes a woman, always deadly. Some stories tell of the Damia, a female spirit who preyed on children, drinking their blood. Others of the Sila, desert spirits that drained men of their life. And in certain tales, even the Ifrit and married powerful jinn were said to thirst for human blood. Here, the vampire was not tied to castles and bats, but to fire, sand and ruin. Travelers wrote of graveyards haunted at night, of spirits that struck the living down, of corpses drained of blood. In Arabia, the line between vampire and demon blurred, and the fear of the desert gave birth to monsters of thirst and hunger. When these tales traveled west, they transformed. The ghoul became a grave-robbing monster in 1001 Nights, later entering English as a word for anyone who fed on death. The Strigoi inspired Gothic writers. In 1819, John Polidori published The Vampire, creating the first aristocratic vampire in literature. By the time Bram Stoker wrote Dracula in 1897, the vampire had become a nobleman, draped in velvet, ruling from his castle. From then on, the vampire was no longer a restless corpse or desert demon. It was a symbol of desire, of seduction, of fear of the unknown. But why does every culture invent the vampire? One answer is disease. When tuberculosis swept Europe, the sick coughed blood, wasted away and spread terror. Villagers thought something was feeding on them. During plague years, people dug up corpses and found bodies bloated with dark fluids. Really just decomposition, but to them, proof that the dead were feeding on the living. Another answer is control. Tales of vampires kept children indoors. They kept people away from dangerous places. They enforced order in uncertain times. And a third answer is symbolism. Blood equals life. To take someone's blood is to take their essence. The vampire is not only a monster, it is a metaphor for disease, for oppression, for the stranger who comes in the night. Before Dracula, there were countless monsters. The Strigoi, the Jiangshi, the Aswang, the Ghoul. Different faces, different names. But one truth, they were all hungry for life. Perhaps they were just stories, or perhaps they were warnings. Because the fear of something that drinks our blood has never left us. We see it in books, in films, in nightmares, and maybe in the shadows outside your window tonight. This is Dark Folklore. If you enjoyed this journey into the origins of the vampire, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. Join us every day as we uncover more terrifying folk tales, forgotten myths, and haunted legends from around the world. The world's darkest stories are waiting, and together, we bring them back to life.